Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday Mull for Friday the 19th of February. In Exodus chapter 2 we have the story of Moses' birth. And we all know that story, Moses in the bulrushes. His mother hides him in a basket in the bulrushes where Pharaoh's daughter finds him, and eventually she adopts him. When he's older, we're told he goes out and he sees an Egyptian beating a Hebrew. Now when the details are not explicit, one assumes it's a slave driver beating a slave, and this offends Moses. We're not sure why, but we're told in verse 12, looking this way and that and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. The next day he goes out and he sees two Israelites fighting, and he says to the one Hebrew, "Why are you beating this your brother?" And the man turns to him and says to him, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid and thought, what I did must have become known. And indeed the story spread, and eventually Pharaoh hears about it, wants to kill Moses, but Moses runs away and hides in Midian, and he stays there for the next couple of decades. And as I read this, two thoughts came. The one is that in a sense Moses was jumping the gun. He was indeed called to rule over Israel, as the other Hebrew says, "Who made you ruler and judge over us?" God did, but that was only later on. And he was sent to free the slaves from their slavery later on. And when God calls us to do things, we need to respond to the call, but we need to recognize, firstly, that we need to do God's will in his time. It didn't help that Moses jumped the gun. And we need to wait for God's timing, and sometimes patience is required. And the second point was that we need to do God's will in God's way. And it appears from the reading of the text that this was not God's way of dealing with it. Moses did not have God's sanction and blessing on what he did. And likewise, when we serve God, we must do, no matter how good the intention is, we've got to do it in God's way. And it doesn't help that you say, "Oh, but if I do this and it's dishonest as it is, the end will be good." God never blesses that. We are always called to do God's will in God's way from beginning to end. Any shortcut will not see the enterprise being blessed. So as God calls us to walk with him today, in his time and in his way. And as we do that, we will be blessed.